Okay. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for talking to us. Style Blueprint is so excited to have you as our Face of the South for June. A lot of us know about Stuckey's roadside. It's just such a nostalgic, incredible thing that everybody knows about in the South. And a lot is happening with it. So we're really excited to talk to you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Course. All right, so let's get right into this. I want to know a little bit about your younger years. You're a third generation Stuckey. What was it kind of like growing up with watching your grandfather kind of grow this business?
What's interesting about my story, unlike other, I call them 3Gers, third generation of family businesses, is that I didn't grow up with the company being in our family. And in many ways, I see that now as an asset. At the time, it was odd because we did have a family business that bore the name. And so people would connect us with the brand. But my grandfather sold Stuckey's in 1964. We were founded in 1937. So he had built it from literally a shed on the side of the road selling pecans on US 1 in Eastman, Georgia, to at its peak 368 stores in 40 states, mostly centered in the Southeast hub. But he sold it. And so my growing up years, we would road trip and we would stop at Stuckey's almost like any other family, really, because it was out of family hands. He sold to Pet Dairy Corporation and then they got bought out in a hostile takeover. So there were many decades where it was not our family business. Now, having said that, my road trip experience stopping at Stuckey's hopefully is similar to some of your subscribers and followers. It was pulling over. We had a Woody station wagon. I was number four. I am number four of five kids. I was always in the back seat with no air conditioning. And we pulled over and would beg our parents to buy us pecan log rolls and coonskin caps and rubber alligators and all the fun kitschy souvenirs that many of us remember. We were just like everyone else. And I loved that experience. And I want to help bring that back. So my mission is not just to revive Stuckey's, it's that road trip experience that I enjoyed. And I think other generations should start to experience that again. I want to see our country get back to enjoying exploring small town America and getting on the road.
I love that. It's so wonderful. So your career started in law and politics, is that right?
Yes, I did not grow up and thinking that this would ever be my career path. I'm actually post 50, so I didn't get Stuckey's until I was 53 years old and I bought the company. So I had a very different career journey. I was not groomed to be the pecan log roll heiress. I say that because the Atlanta paper had a headline recently that said I was an heiress, and I just thought, I'm not Paris Hilton. Not
It's great.
knocking her. That's a
It's
great
great.
gig if you can get it. I would love to be a Paris Hilton type heiress, but no, that was not me. I did not inherit this company, and it was not a Fortune 500 company. It was losing money. So I am trained as a lawyer. I practiced law for decades.
So when you did take it over, tell me a little bit about the state of the company when you decided to buy it, and why did you? What made you decide?
The state was not good. We had been losing money for 5 years since 2015, and frankly, I don't think I would have had the opportunity to buy it had the company been fabulously successful. My father got the company back in 1985, and he and his business partners, he had several business partners who at that point co-owned Stuckey's along with several other companies. So my father was somewhat like my grandfather, a serial entrepreneur. My grandfather always had several side hustles in addition to Stuckey's. And Stuckey's started as a side hustle. So I'm a huge proponent of the side hustle. You never know what might happen. But my father and his business partners were fabulously successful with their other businesses, not necessarily Stuckey's. Thank God, they got it back into the fold. They did keep it alive. They did expand the brand into some new directions. At the point they got the company back, we had lost a lot of the assets, including the candy company, the trucking company, the billboard company. So they inherited a company that was really struggling. And I really commend my dad and his business partners for reviving the brand. But they all retired. They sold one of their companies to Warren Buffett, did very well. They checked out, as they should. And the company at that point had a skeleton crew running it and was losing money. So the state was not good. My dad's former business partners asked me if I wanted to buy their shares. So that's how I got into the business. It was really initially a financial decision. Why I did it, sometimes I ask myself that, but it was my family's legacy, and it broke my heart going on road trips. I love to road trip, and I really was crushed every time I would drive by and see what used to be a Stuckey's. And quite often it would be a porn shop, literally, because we're on the interstate. We are often located where there's no zoning in effect. You're outside of city limits. And so that's where those types of operations tend to cite themselves, because legally they're allowed to do business there. So we still are some of those old Stuckey's or porn shops, sex shops, video poker, gambling places. And that is not our brand. And that is not what my grandfather would like to have seen. And I wanted to turn that around. And I also think, how often does a nostalgic brand lose what's special about it, fall out of the family hands, and you get a chance to take it back? It just doesn't happen.
I know.
And I thought, I'm going to do this. And
Oh,
it's been amazing. Within 6 months, we turned a profit. I got a business partner. He invested too. So we jointly own it. I have someone else helping me run this thing. And we just bought a candy plant. And I found out today the packaging is done. It's being shipped. And we should have our new candy literally rolling off the lines. Our log rolls are going to be in production next week. So we're about to totally turn things around, and I can't wait.
That's so great. I can just like feel your excitement, and I love it
Yeah.
so much. I'm so the type of, I mean, and like you said, this is a lot of our readers are like this new, I think not new. I mean, it is because of COVID, I think really has made this a little bit more prominent, but this looking inward and not trying to go out and travel all these crazy, foreign places. It's like, let's explore our own backyard. And like, what a better time to have this kind of revival of the road trip stop than now. But you've always loved this, right? I want to know how you're trying to breathe life back into Stuckey's. I mean, obviously bringing back your like iconic pecan log is perfect, but what else are you all doing to kind of bring back this nostalgic vintage feel of that you love?
I think so much of brand building is storytelling, because you can talk about how great your product is, and you can talk about how low your prices are, but at some point people have to have an emotional connection to your brand if you're going to have sticking power. And that's what great companies do. They're not just selling a product, they're selling an experience, and they're building community. And that community is built through shared love of an experience. And I'll give you an example, because I'm a huge fan of Nike, and I just finished reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder and CEO of Nike. He set out to create a running community. And this was in a time when only people who were track stars ran. The thought of getting sneakers on and running through your neighborhood, people would look at you like you were crazy. I mean, he started Nike in the 1960s. I should know that since I just finished the book. But at the time, it was not a thing. But there was enough of a community there that loved running, that's what he was building. And his shoes, initially, he had one sales rep who would go to track meets and sell running shoes. And they were creating this community of people who love to run. And their very first retail store was filled with literature and books about running. And it was a place where running clubs would meet. And to this day, I know I've got a local shoe store that I absolutely love. And that's where everyone goes and gathers to talk about running, and they'll meet there and go on runs. So the same concept with Stuckey's is, I want us to be bigger than just pulling over at these teal roofs. In fact, we don't own or operate any of our stores. That's the reality of the company that I acquired. We don't have any corporate owned locations. So I have to build this brand around the storytelling of how wonderful it is to explore America. And I'm building a road tripping community.
That's so great. I just love that. We're all about the road trip. So many incredible places that we just have, overlook and no longer. It's just been so great.
And there's great stories right in your backyard.
Absolutely.
Like, I just discovered the world's largest collection of ferns.
Wow.
Is 15 miles from my house.
That's amazing. My mom loves. I have to
at a community college. There was a botany professor who was totally into collecting ferns. He traveled the world. He collected them. He needed a place to put them. The college let him take over a vacant lot, 3 acres, and he turned it into, literally, it's a Jurassic Park. It's like walking back in a time machine. And I read about it and I thought, how could this be right in my community? And I never knew about it.
Where is it?
And those places are everywhere.
That's amazing. Where is that, in Georgia? Where is that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's off of Panthersville Road in South DeKalb County, and it's called Ferns of the World. It's at the former DeKalb Perimeter College campus, which was recently taken over by Georgia State College and University. But there's places like that everywhere. Right down the road from our candy plant is Harlem, Georgia, which happens to be the hometown of Oliver Hardy, as in Laurel and Hardy. It's where he was born, and they have the world's largest collection of Laurel and Hardy memorabilia. And there's a little old vintage theater that's been renovated, and they show nonstop Laurel and Hardy films. Like,
that's so cool.
That's cool to me. That's just as interesting as visiting New York City.
I completely agree. And that's so much about what we try to write about and capture, like so much, like quirky, weird little stops that you never knew existed. It's just, and honestly, we see it. Our readers like really, really, really love stories like that, way more than, how to spend a weekend in New York, right?
Right. And New York is great. Right. And people who like that, that's great. They're not
right.
They're not my group. That's one of the biggest lessons I had to learn in taking on Stuckey's, is you cannot be all things to all people. You have to define who it is that we are selling to. Who is it that we're marketing to? Who is our tribe, as Seth Godin says, who's a very well-respected marketing professional and has written a lot of books. Who's your tribe? Yep. You got to know who your tribe is. And that's ours. People who like to road trip, people who like Southern hospitality and warmth and being gracious and welcoming. And we are all about the pecan and pralines and divinity and Southern food. So that's us.
I love it. What's something that people are often surprised to learn about you? I love this question.
I think that I am a health nut because we sell candy.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons why I set out almost immediately after buying the company to merge with a business partner who had a healthy pecan snack company. The pecan is actually one of the healthiest nuts, and it's the only native snack nut to the United States. It's full of antioxidants and the good kinds of fats, and makes your hair glow and your skin vibrant, and all these anti-aging benefits. The list goes on and on and on. There's tons of research backing this up. And so I am very conscious of what I put in my body. I've been a vegetarian for years. Not that meat eating is necessarily bad, but just to stress that I pay attention to what I eat. And that is part of what we're doing with Stuckey's, is to get the high fructose corn syrup out of our product, to get refined sugar out of our product. Having said that, we're embracing that we also sell candy. And I think it's okay to have some candy as an indulgent treat. I absolutely love eating our product, but I'm not going to sit down and gorge and eat a praline and a log roll and a divinity in one sitting. I might have a praline once a week.
Right.
That's my snack.
I like it.
But what I've learned is when you have your indulgent snack, and let's face it, I think all of us have our indulgent snacks and treats. And maybe that's a glass of wine, maybe that's a cup of coffee, maybe that's something sweet, maybe that's all the above at different times.
Right.
And when we do, we want it to be really, really good. It's not going to be junk food. Yes, it's candy, but it's candy from the absolute freshest and best ingredients that you will find anywhere. And it is going to be mind-blowingly delicious. So people may be surprised to know that about me, but I am totally good selling candy now because we have changed this company around to make sure it's a really quality product.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm just right there with you. I love a sweet treat every so often, but
Yeah.
I'm very healthy. Okay.
We all have to put on swimsuits in the summer too. So, right. We're like, you got to balance it. That life is about balance.
Absolutely. So at the press, you talked about the Eris tagline, which I thought was beautiful. It's funny to see Eris and like log roll in one sentence, right? But people call this a comeback story, and so do you. You embrace that in your rhetoric. What are some hurdles that you've had to face besides what we've already talked about over your first couple of years at the helm? And I know there was a fire, I think. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but any hurdles that you?
Oh yeah. Oh, my first week on the job, we had a store burned to the ground. I think probably the biggest hurdle is the lack of control over our stores.
Right.
And that is what surprised me the most. We are largely known for our stores, for our roadside retail operations, but I didn't realize the extent to which, frankly, we don't have a lot of control over the stores. And as an attorney, I really started to look into and research, and I got an outside attorney who's an expert on franchise law because that was not my area. I practiced environmental law and also criminal defense, actually. And I consulted a franchise attorney, and we went over the agreements, and we realized that we really aren't operating a franchise system. We do not have an operations program. We do not have a manual. We don't have an ongoing percentage of sales, franchise fee. All of these are sort of traditional ways that franchise operations are run. What we are really doing is a licensing operation where people pay to use the Stuckey name on their stores, and only 20 of the 65 locations that are franchised even have like a standalone store. It's just a section within the store. So that surprised me. We don't control most of the product you find in the stores. They'll source from other people. So we provide a limited quantity of their branded merchandise that bears our name. So that to me has been the biggest challenge, is figuring out that piece, because we lack the capital and we lack the control to turn the stores around overnight. That is very challenging, and it's an incredibly competitive marketplace. And just access to capital, access to human capacity to really do the gazillion things I want to do with this brand, that's been the biggest challenge.
You've got a lot of time, hopefully.
I hope so. And I picked a partner who is, I'm doing the math, he's 17 years younger than me.
Oh, wow.
So
I cannot wrap my head around the fact that you're 50, you're over 50. You look incredible.
50-ish is what I say. But
okay.
Yeah, I see so many successful business people, male and female, in their 50s. You really kind of hit your stride. Colonel Sanders, oh my gosh, he didn't start really hitting it till his 60s. And Ray Kroc and I were the same. I'm the same age as Ray Kroc, who really built McDonald's. He was 53 when he bought the McDonald's franchise system. Yeah. So that's a pretty good model.
It is, and it gives me a lot of hope as a 30-year-old.
Yep.
Just getting
lots of years left.
Good. So I'm gonna what's a common misconception that people have about Stuckey's? This might actually tie into what you were just saying before, but I love to hear this. What makes you cringe when you hear people say it about your brand?
I think that they can think we have a lot of money because I literally get 50 solicitations a day. And it's not just the canned generic. It's people who say they love our brand, they say very specific details about our business. So it's clear they've done some research and they ask if we want to buy their services. And we're bootstrapping stuff right now. We don't have the funds to hire a big consulting team. My business partner and I are doing a ton of the work. I joke that I'm chief executive officer, chief marketing officer, chief sales officer, and chief brand officer. And my business partner is president, chief operations officer. He helps with sales. He's in charge of our export operations. We've been exporting pecans to a couple of foreign countries. He's in charge of manufacturing. He's our pecan expert. We both do marketing. We both do sales all the time. I mean, if you're not selling, what are you doing? Everyone in the company needs to be selling, in my opinion. Everyone. Yep. So I think it's a misconception how small we really are. You know, it's almost like looking behind that curtain in The Wizard of Oz and seeing a tiny, you know, little person with their machinations running everything. We're very small, scrappy team, but very efficient and hardworking and dedicated.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have a favorite Stuckies? I know they're all different and I'm sure run in very different ways. And then we talked about all the things you sell, but what's kind of your favorite thing that you pick up when you're there?
I think any of the traditional blue roof stores, and I've got one behind me, that teal sloped roof, there's very few of them still left. So one of them I'll highlight is Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I really love that one because the owner and his wife, Russ and Candy Whiteside, they've had that store for decades and they really take good care of it. They run that store the way I think Stuckey should be run. And they make their own fudge and you walk in that store and you just are hit with that smell of freshly made candy, which is what my grandfather did when he started the business. All the candy was made fresh on site, and there's nothing better than the smell of candy being made on site. So I'll say Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but you're right. Actually, I don't love them all. Some of them are real fixer-uppers, and some of them, frankly, probably just need to be debranded. They're in such bad shape. And I'm talking about ones that aren't the original blue roof. Anyone that's original, any store that's an original blue roof, I would give my right arm to have the money to take it over and revive it and restore it just the way it should be.
Yeah.
And didn't you ask me, what product? Pecan log roll, of course.
Love it. Love it.
And then as far as like a souvenir, I'm a huge snow globe fan. I have probably 200 of them.
That's
there's my. Sorry. Thank you. Do
you want me to leave the door unlocked or
locked? So tell me.
The boys are working from home.
Yeah, same. I'm like, they're just people working on the yard outside. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I bet you probably, do you have days off? And if you do, what do you do with your days off?
I really don't. I'm going to be honest. I think
either. I'm with you.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and that's what I consider myself. Stuckey's is an 80-year-old startup. You work all the time.
That's such a great line.
For me, it's a passion. And it's even, I think with COVID, I think we've all had this weird warped sense of work versus home. Because like you said, my son just walked in to pass the keys off to the car. He's now in college and home and borrowing my car. All that sort of starts to blend. Sure. But if you really love what you do, if you're passionate about your job, and for me, it's more than a job, it's a calling, then it's okay. You don't mind putting in all that sweat equity. My time off is road tripping. I absolutely love it. And I'm so blessed that my kids actually enjoy doing it with me. My daughter will even say to me, Mom, let's go on a road trip. I don't think we've seen a fiberglass statue in a couple of weeks. So she's gotten into it. And I think part of it is she's part of that whole generation where everything is a selfie on Instagram or TikTok. So she and her friends will go with me, and they'll take videos and post them on social media, which I love. Maybe I'll get a whole new generation of teenagers interested in the brand thanks to my daughter and her friends.
I think so. I think that's probably very likely. That's awesome. So I love this one too. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received and from whom?
I don't know if it's really advice, but it's a comment I got from someone I really respect. His name is Bill Bowling, and he was named Georgian of the Year about a decade ago by Georgia Trend magazine, which is very well respected business publication. And he was the founder of the Atlanta Community Food Bank, which became one of the largest food banks, I think, in the country, certainly in the Southeast. And he started that from nothing. And and he's someone I really turn to for mentorship and advice over the years throughout a couple of careers I've had. And I remember asking him about founding the food bank, and he said that for him, it wasn't just about food, it was about community. He was building a community, and food was what he chose to build that community around. And that is what he used to connect people. And that concept I've carried with me to Stuckey's. And like I said earlier, I'm not just about building a profit or building a company or even building a brand. It's building a community. And when you change your mindset and that's what you're about, that's your paradigm, is building community, that's a game changer. So it wasn't necessarily advice, it was just sharing his story with me. And it was an aha moment that if you really want something that's going to have lasting legacy value, it's got to be beyond just the immediate return on investment. It's got to be about building a community of people with shared experiences and a shared love of a passion, like road tripping, like food, like any number of things. You take your pick. What is your passion? How do you build a community around it?
I love that.
That's
like,
what I'm doing.
yeah, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think that's what you're doing with your publication, right? You're building a community.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. That's like our number one thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's how you're going to continue to be successful.
People know, yeah, it's like a feeling that you get when you open our emails in the morning. You know, it's going to be happy and focused on small businesses that you want to know more about. It's never going to be, I don't know, contrived or I don't know. So I
exactly,
for sure. So we love this one, the if you're on an island, and this doesn't have to be physical things, but if besides faith, family, and friends, what are 3 things that you couldn't live without?
Oh, a good book, right?
Oh my gosh.
I have to pick a really, really long one. Gotta have a book.
Okay. Number 1.
Well, I love to cook. So I'd have to have a pot cooking.
Let's say
and okay, so I do enjoy camping. And for me, the most important thing when you're roughing it is being able to sleep well. So I would have an incredibly comfortable air mattress.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah, there's nothing worse. I cannot sleep just on a hard ground. I gotta have, I'm not like the Princess and a Pea where it's gotta be just absolutely perfect, but just sleeping on a hard ground, anyone who's ever done that knows.
I am a
sore for days.
Diva, a sleep diva.
Yes.
Can't.
Sleep is so important. I heard Ariana Huffington, someone I really admire, who's just amazing all she's done with her life and later in life too, found a lot of success post 40, 50. Mm-hmm. And she is just this sleep diva. She gives talks on sleep. She's written books about sleep. And I heard her, she came to the Decatur, Georgia Book Festival and gave the keynote address all about sleep.
It's so important. I don't think people don't really understand how important it is. I'm so with you. It's truly incredible how low quality most of our sleep is and how much it affects our mental health and our physical health. It's crazy.
Mental health, physical health, how you look externally, everything is impacted by sleep.
I love that.
So I'd have a comfortable mattress.
You have to have a comfy place.
Number one, actually should have that first. A mattress, a pot, good book.
I love it.
I could survive.
Okay, we love to get a little taste of kind of your favorite places in Atlanta and in the South, but what was your last best meal?
Oh, this is interesting. So I have been on a quest, and if any of your readers have a contribution for me to add to this list that I'm trying to form, please reach out. But I have been in search of gas station gourmets. So what that means is it has to be a gas station, so they have to sell gas, but a gas station that actually sells decent food, that is not Chester's Fried Chicken or Hunt Brothers Pizza or Subway. No disrespect to those brands, but not they don't have a chain in there, and they haven't bought their food from a chain that caters to C-stores. It is convenience stores. It is fresh, made on site food, biscuits, fried chicken.
I love that.
Collard greens.
Found any?
I have been in search for weeks, and what inspired me to start looking for this is a guy who writes for the National Association of Convenience Store magazines. He started a website called Gas Station Gourmet, so I invite you to look it up. His name is Al Herbert, and he told me about this, and I said, there's no entries for Georgia on your website. And he said, well, help me find one. So that I've been on a quest, and I have been pulling over. It's driving my kids crazy. They're like, will you quit pulling over to all these gas stations? I said, I'm looking for a gourmet. So I found one yesterday. So that would be my latest best meal. It's called Friendly Gus's outside of Macon, Georgia. And I talked to the woman. I got photos. She could not have been nicer. She wakes up every morning. She makes homemade mac and cheese, homemade mashed potatoes, collards. And of course she has lots of, fried chicken. And so I'm a Southern vegetarian, by the way, which means I will eat stuff with fat back, because otherwise I would not survive. So the green beans had fat back in them, but they were delicious. I did not eat the actual fat back, but it was cooked in it. So that was my latest best meal. Absolutely yummy.
Sounds like an entire book, article, something. We need to keep talking about it.
The guy has a website on it. So I just figured he's already out there doing it. So I'm just going to help him along the way and give him some entries. So I wish more convenience stores would offer that, make your own food. And the interesting thing while I was in there, because I stayed for half an hour and I interviewed the lady, she couldn't have been nicer. And people were in and out. They were all locals on their lunch break. And so the word was out that this was the place to go for lunch.
Wow, that's so cool.
The gas station.
Okay, what's your favorite hidden gem in Atlanta?
Oh, okay. This is one that I visited recently, Doll's Head Trail.
Okay.
It is off of Moreland Avenue in DeKalb County, city of Atlanta. And it is a trail that a local artist just started collecting abandoned dolls. And he would put there's a doll's head and there's a doll, and all over the trail, he would put these little pieces of art, and it's become a thing. So other artists came and started adding stuff. And now they have actually a preservation group that makes sure that you're not messing, nobody's taking the dolls. Yeah. It's beautiful. There's a lot of photographs of it. If you follow me on Instagram, it's Stuckey Stop. I have photos of it. So that's one of my places, and it's free.
Cool.
Doll's Head Trail, Constitution Lake. It's on a lake.
Wow.
It's really beautiful. It's open, dawn to dusk, free, easy access, easy parking.
That's awesome.
Great place to explore.
Our Atlanta readers are going to flock. Okay, last vacation you took?
Helen, Georgia, for Mother's Day. My kids took me there.
I love
What I love about Helen, Georgia, it is pretty touristy, but it was a town that was making its money off of asbestos mining. And then all of the studies came out about the health problems associated with asbestos. And this little town in the North Georgia mountains was dying. They were losing their, people were moving out, all the jobs were gone. And the town elders, so to speak, got together. They had to do something to save the little town, and the elders had a lot of them had fought in World War II in Germany, and they remembered the Alps and the Bavarian mountains, and they said, well, let's bring a little Germany to Helen. And they passed a zoning ordinance that every single building had to be German themed, Bavarian style architecture, and they made it into this touristy mecca, and they had a huge Oktoberfest. The town's completely taken off. It's been incredibly successful.
Yeah, it's
That was in the
cool.
1950s. So, some 70 years later, it's thriving. It's a little town that saved itself. And yeah, it is touristy, but it's fun. I think it's well done. And you can go 2 miles outside of town and you can be in the Chattahoochee National Wildlife Area, and you can be at Unicoi State Park. There's beautiful trails, so you can get nature, but you can also get your tacky fix, and they have good coffee shops, really good restaurants, and actually authentic German bakeries and German food. It's really wonderful, and great beer.
Helen, Georgia.
Helen, Georgia.
All right, what's your favorite boutique?
I am a consignment store and thrift store shopper because I have a sustainability background. So I'm a big fan of not buying new, because one of the number one forms of waste in our waste stream is textiles, along with organic waste, food. But anyway, so I started doing consignment 3 years ago. I took a pledge that I was not buying any new clothes. I buy strictly consignment. Everything I wear is consignment. And Finders Keepers is my favorite consignment store. It's in Atlanta, and they have Chanel, they have Givenchy, they have all sorts of high-end designer labels, quite often still with the labels on them. And I'll give one more, Labels and Buckhead. Same thing. A lot of their clothes still have the labels on them. Brand new.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Max Mara, a lot of the brands that you love. You can, Prada, I have some Prada boots that I have just worn out. Brand spanking new. Got it.
That's so great.
Consignment. Got it. Labels.
What is on your bedside table?
Right now I'm reading Bill Bryson, who wrote A Walk in the Woods. Mm-hmm. And what is the name of it? Journey Across America. I think he wrote a book about road tripping. And I just started reading that. I should know the title. I'm like on chapter 2. I just started.
I'll fact check it for you.
He's a great writer.
Yes.
Bill Bryson.
Yes. And then what's your favorite birthday present to give?
I'm not a gift person. I don't like things. So I tend to give experiences. So I'll usually ask a friend, just let's go share a meal. I'll often just ask them to come by my house. I love to cook. But that's my favorite birthday, is just spending time with people I really care about.
Awesome. Well, that is all I have. And I think we covered a lot of ground. I can't thank you enough for talking to us. I think this is just going to be so wonderful to share you and your story with our readers. And I think the reach of this might surprise you. So I'm excited. I always have on my faces people be like, I had no idea so many people read you. Yeah. And so hopefully that's the experience for you. But thank you again so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk on camera too.
Of course.